243 versus 308.
So I thought I'd do a follow-up video about the 308 versus 358. And in 1955, the 358 was made from the 308, which was a 1952 cartridge. And the other sibling that happened in 1955 was the 243 Winchester. And it just so happens that my first four firearms were, number one, a 30-30, which I soon found to be quite anemic and resulted not in really quick kills. Animals would usually run for a bit, which is why I've been so delighted by the 375 Winchester, because it's such a handy carbine. Second was a 308, which was a humdinger, and I used a lot. Third was a 243, which I used as a deer cartridge, and I'll talk to you a little bit about that more. And the fourth one was the 358 Winchester. So for medium game, large game, 308 I think is probably the best of those. But let's talk a little bit about Winchester's 243 and medium-sized big game. So where this little 308 is at its best with 150 to 180 grain bullets for medium-sized big game, this 243 is from 85 to 105 grains. And I really like my 243. I had it in a Midland Arms, which was basically a Mauser action. It had a 24-inch barrel. I got really good velocities. It was accurate. And I shot my furthest away deer with this cartridge at 350 yards. And that's where I found something about the 243 Winchester. So I won't keep you in suspense. What I found out with some long distance kills on the 243 is you do have bullet upset, unlike the 358. You do have a trajectory, in fact, better trajectory than the 308. But what you start to run out of is energy. And what I found with the 243 is unless you're really disciplined, you can make hits on big game past where you have really good energy levels, with especially a not great hit to kill the animal quickly. So let's take a look at that more. So in this case, I'm going to take two of my favorite loads, 308 with 165 grain Spitzer boat tail, and the 243 with a 90 grain AccuBond. So started off at their respective velocities. You can see both hold on to 2,000 feet per second right out to 350 yards, so you have no problems with the bullets expanding at least out to 350 yards, which is actually a fairly long shot. So that's a good sign. Turning to trajectory, again, where you're not going over 3 inches high, you can get that 285 yard point blank range with the 308. The 243 can get all the way out to 315 yards. So there's no doubt that the 243 will shoot a little bit flatter because it's a little bit faster. Similarly, wind drift with the 243, you can see you get a little bit better wind drift figures, which matters for long range shooting. But here's the fly in the ointment. The 243 doesn't have that high energy levels. So you can see it starts at 1983 at 3150 feet per second with that 90 grain AccuBond, where the 308's at 2671, and that advantage just keeps. So by the time you're at 300 yards, the 308's at 1713, the 243's down to 1165, which starts to become a little bit marginal, especially on big deer or big caribou. But you can easily make hits out there. So you have to have some discipline with a 243 because it's a very precise, it requires very precise bullet placement to really kill the things the size of a caribou really, really well. So when I went caribou hunting, I did a lot better killing with the 308. So for example, in the NWT, I used to take 5 caribou at a time if I could. I used a 308 Steyr Scout, and it gave me a margin for error. So if I shot them a little far back, they'd still fall right down, where with a 243, you've got to have very, very precise bullet placement. And that's sometimes hard to do at longer ranges. So 308, really, like a mini 30-06, really got the job done.
So, here's one thing we haven't mentioned. When my son was young, he didn't like recoil. My wife still doesn't like recoil. Here's our family's 243. It's a Tikka. It's left-handed because I've got a bunch of left-eyed people shoot a left-hand rifle. So that's a left-handed bolt. This Tikka is our most accurate rifle. For whatever reason, this is a half MOA rifle. And it's got 10 foot-pounds of recoil with those 90 grain AccuBond bullets. And they'll go right through a caribou. So some people think that 243 has unbelievable killing power because I think it's so easy to shoot well. Like with that 10 foot-pounds, it's very, very easy to shoot. People aren't scared of this. Where my 308, instead of 10 foot-pounds, there's the featherweight 308. It's fantastic. But it's got 20 foot-pounds, and it's enough to give you a fairly sharp rap if you're not used to shooting. So if my wife or son, when he was younger, were going out, this 243 was the rifle. Gotta fix that rattle. Because of that low recoil impulse. So there is the advantage of the 243. It's a fantastic dual-purpose pest, medium game rifle, but keep your shots under 300 yards. And if you can do that, which is an awful long way, if you can do that and shoot precisely, this 243, a very, very good weapon. It's almost like an expert's weapon, which is kind of where it's a little bit funny, where you really want to shoot it well, and yet it's kind of a beginner's rifle. So, but you can practice a lot with it, and you can learn to shoot this very, very quickly, where something with more recoil takes a little bit longer to master. So I love this half MOA rifle. Pretty good.